How you doing, everybody? Listen, I hope you're all well. It's Thursday the 29th of September 2011. It's a Thursday. And Thursday morning, it's around midday. I haven't been on for a while and I had to go away again. I had to try and earn some money. Looks like I'll be doing this for a while because the business that I'm involved in is very bad in Ireland. And anyway, it doesn't matter, I was away. And then when I came home, I had a personal bit of a set to one of my immediate family members is dying, so just that's tied up a lot of time. It's just the rites of passage business, you know yourself. Anyway, I hope everybody's well, as I say, and the reason I decided to make this little video today is because when I was away, I obviously lots of time to think about things, and a couple of things happened which I found was extraordinary. I met up with lots of, this is in the UK and on mainland Europe. I met up with a couple of people and I was stunned at their sort of response to the present dilemma that we find ourselves in, as it were, this so-called crisis, this Greek ongoing debacle in Greece, right? And I was stunned at these people because I asked them what they felt, and they were completely at sea. They seemed to think that the whole thing was just, it was terrible. And I mean, I don't know. At most, anyway. Look, in order to understand it, you just gotta go back to basics, real basics. And I hope this doesn't sound like it's lecturing people, and I don't mean to be, but I just want to tell you the following. The predominant economic order that's in the world and political order is a capitalist order. And the shape of that, if you can put it into a shape, it's approximately a triangle. And what you've got is you've got all the classes laid out inside the triangle. You know, there's the social triangle, there's the economic triangle, and there's the political triangle. And they overlay one another. And that's society at large. Okay? And the way that it is, we've got to go across the water to America, because it's essentially where modern day capitalism is at its most advanced and its most acute, if you know what I mean. It's where the cutting edge of capital works out of the United States. And what's happened is, over the last 70 years in the United States, particularly 70 years, of the three layers, you know, as I say, you have the social layer in society. If you can imagine, these are all triangle shaped like triangle. Then you've got the economic layer, and over it you've got the political layer, which is supposed to govern the other two layers. What's happened in America is that the economic layer, or the economic order, has usurped, or it has effectively enacted a putsch coup d'etat in America. That's what's happened. What has happened in America is that the CEOs and the board members, the corporate members of these huge corporations, now run America. That's essentially what's happened. And the proof of that is that these presidents that they have in America are at the beck and call of the guys who run these corporations. And nearly all of the legislation, whether it be social, whether it be political or whatever, is enacted at the behest of and under the direction of these corporations. So what you have is you've got a plutocracy stroke corporatocracy running America. So all this business about the land of the free and the home of the brave and all, that's all gone by the wayside, to say it in a more polite manner. It's all gone. Alright? So it's been usurped. And what's going on now in Europe with all this Greek thing and with it is an extension of that. That has been carried across from America into Europe. And what they want Europe to become is, they want Europe to become the United States of Europe. That's what they want. They want a political union out of this manufactured crisis, because they manufactured this. And the purpose, the overall, the big purpose of that is that every nation state should lose its sovereignty and should become subordinate to the larger state, the European state. When we first joined Europe, they spoke in European terms then of the EEC, the European Economic Community. They don't say that anymore. They don't. You never hear any European politician speaking about the European Economic Community. They only speak about the EU, the European Union. That's a deliberate thing. It's a completely and directly deliberate thing. They want the subjugation of the nation state, which is going to be run by a whole crowd of mandarins. Totally unelected, totally undemocratic mandarins. And it's going to be a mirror reflection of what goes on in America. All the people who are the elected representatives of the people will all be in the back pockets. Like it is in America. In America, it's almost total, apart from one or two people. And you can see their heads stuck above the parapet. And they're put down as being kooks and madmen and lunatics. That's how they're addressed. And the same thing is going on. It's an ongoing process here in Europe at the moment. This business about Greece and all that, these debts are nothing. The debts of the Greek banks are Mickey Mouse. You can resolve that over a weekend. That's not what it's about. It's about using this as an excuse to bring about more and more political union. And there's only two things standing in their way. And there are two countries. One is called France and one's called Germany. And just at the moment, they seem to be the only two countries that are really adamant that they're not going to participate in this. Where that goes, people say, well, what do you think? I don't know what's going to happen. Eventually, I think something along those lines will happen. Whether or not it resolves the real economic elephant in the room, because there is an elephant in the room. I've told you it before many, many, many times. It's got nothing to do with Greek banks. It's got nothing to do. It's to do with all of the major European banks. They have on their asset sheets, they have huge indebtedness through these property derivatives, these CDOs that they bought over 20, 30 years out of America. These so-called assets are on the asset side of their books, and they're not literally worth a tiny fraction of the stated value of what they have down. Let's say, for instance, they paid 100 units for them, and they put down that they're now worth 80 or 90 units or whatever. All right. In reality, they're probably worth 5 or 10 units. They're really liabilities. They're not worth, and they're never, in our lifetime, they are never going to recover. And they're never going to recover because at the whole core of the whole business in America and in Europe is the concept of consumerism. And the very opposite to that, the very thing that prevents consumerism from growing, is globalization, is the outsourcing of jobs to the likes of the Far East and China. So that's going to increase the number of people unemployed in America and in Europe. That's all. It's very simple. It's going to mean there's going to be less money available for consumption. None of this is rocket science. But the elephant that sits in the room at the moment and threatens to bring the whole edifice down and no one talks about are these property derivatives on these banks' books. And there's not enough money in the world to shore all this up. And really, I don't know where it's going to go. I don't know how they're going to work it out. But for the medium-term future, it does not look good. That is what's happening. That is what's happening. But while that's going on, while that all is going on, the interplay between American capital and European capital to bring Europe closer and closer together, and so that they can issue these EU bonds, these European Central Bank bonds. So they'll be like, you'll have the Federal Reserve in America doing the same thing, and the Treasury in America doing the same thing, and you're going to have the European Central Bank doing the same thing here. While all that's going on, in the background are the banks with their false balance sheets, with their essentially they're bankrupt. They are insolvent, but essentially they're bankrupt. So that's what's going on at the moment. Where it goes, nobody knows. But one thing is certain: the outlook is not going to be pleasant no matter what happens. Because until they deal with the elephant that's in the room, and it's not possible to deal with that elephant. That elephant was not created over in one day. That elephant was created over years and years and years and years. And it's like a black hole. No matter what you throw at it, it's just going to be absorbed. As I say, there's not enough money in the world to solve the problem. We live in extraordinary times. And a few sacrificial lambs will get offered up, like the likes of Greece and maybe a few others. But the bottom line about it is, at the end of the day, two countries are going to determine the future of Europe. And that's France and in particular Germany over the next possibly 4 or 5 months. Anyway, listen, there is an answer to it. I'm going to talk about the answer very shortly. Okay, we're going to talk in the next video about the answer.